All right, do you view fighting any differently now? I mean, Brady Tkachuk, one of your best players, led the league in fighting majors, which is crazy.
Yeah, he did.
Which is crazy. But do you view fighting any different?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't want him. I didn't want him to. I mean, we bring guys in every year around him to make sure he doesn't have to. I got to tell you, like, he's mean, man. He's just he's mean, and he plays hard. And you know what? He ain't waiting for somebody to come save him. You know, like if I can get him off the ice, you know, and a teammate could jump in, that'd be great. But, you know.
Yeah, but there's no one beating him up, though. There's no one. Sorry to cut you. I know Andy gets pissed. But there's no one beating him up at this point, though, right? So, like, if he does.
There wouldn't be too many. He's too big. He's too strong. Big. You know, like, he can grab you and throw you down. I think he gets bigger by the week. Every time I look at him, he looks like he grew an inch. Threw on 5. Like, he's a monster, man. Like, and he's mean. Like, when he's ultra competitive. And when he's fighting is when he really gets wound up. Someone hits a teammate. It's a tight game. You know, he's super competitive. And, you know, when he's fighting, he's not fighting like a staged fight where there's no energy there or adrenaline. He's fighting when he's at his angriest moment. And that's a scary guy to fight when he's fighting out of complete, you know, anger. And, you know, I haven't seen anyone, you know, knock on wood, that's been able to throw him around. Certainly we don't want him getting hurt, but that's part of his game. That, you know, I'm not on the other team, but I can tell you from playing, there can't be anyone in our division that enjoys playing him. He's going to run you over. He can beat you up. And then he can also outscore your guys. So it's not like you can say to him, hey, you're no good. Why would I fight you? You know, he's the best player. So, like, you don't really got much to say to a guy who's the toughest, the best player. You know, really, you just be quiet and say nothing.
Hey, what are those games like when you're playing Calgary? And there's so much build up, Brady versus Matthew. Like, how do you calm down the situation versus do you just allow it to take on a life of its own and allow the theatrics to kind of take over pregame?
I'll be honest. I think neither of the brothers enjoy it.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Emotional. They do not play as emotional against each other. They try and make it up, and they try and, you know, show their team that they're this and that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're brothers. You're not meant to fight against your brother. You are in the living room, but not in front of, you know, millions of people. You know, should you be, you know, I remember we were playing this year and they're talking about how Brady and Matthew might fight. I'm like, they're best friends. Yeah, they wrestle around in their backyard and they might fight in their driveway, but they're not going to do it for show in front of millions of people. And I told Brady, I'm like, I'm sure your mother would come and slap you both, you know, if something like that happened. But I can see both of them. You know, it's more of a game where they just want it to be over with. They play hockey and move on, and I think they're glad, you know, when they don't have to play each other.
Well, so you're telling me the two biggest, toughest guys in the Canadian division don't fight each other? I don't believe that. And I call Brady. No, wait.
Well, they would,
No. My point is, like, they talked about, like, if Matthew runs somebody over and Brady's on the ice, I don't give a damn if it's your brother. So you're going to be like, no, guys, somebody else do this because he's my brother and my mom, Chantel, will get mad. Come on.
I think he would grab him, but I don't think his brother would put him in that spot. That's my take, is that they play a little cleaner in that game because they know, why would you want to put your brother in that situation? You know what I mean? Like, and I know the mentality of it, but I can they both seem to play a little more hockey and a little less over the edge when they play each other. And I'll be happy that we go back to our regular divisions and, you know, we get to play them a couple times a year. You know, so I think both players will excel not playing against each other.
Business comes before family.
I think you're right, though, man. Like, listen, they hate talking about it. They hate when people ask if you'd fight your brother. It's like, it's almost nauseating.
It's ridiculous.
But they're not going to.
Just do it. If you're going to do it, then do it. Yeah. You shouldn't think about it. It's spontaneous. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah.
So
they're not.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. I mean, they're not going to fight each other. But
they're not going to do it. I mean, you know what I was thinking. There's so many things in the world, and there's so many times that, you know, you got to do certain things. One of them, you know, this one you can't take back is you and your brother fighting on tape, you know, and I know, hey, believe me, and I believe in all the toughness and everything that goes with it. I wouldn't want to see those two do it. I don't think their parents would want to see it. You know, I don't even like matching them up against each other. I purposely, you know, we'll play Brady's line against another line when I get last change.
Wow.
You know, just so we don't even have to run into that spot.
Really? Just because of that? Well, you got to think the family wouldn't want it, and Andy and all you guys wouldn't want it, but 90 million people in Canada would want it, just so you know.
Well, for sure they would, but I'm worried about the well-being of my own player. And you know what? I think Brady plays better when he plays not against his brother. So he's playing against another line. I think I'm getting a better game out of Brady.
Hey, how much did it, like you mentioned bringing on some tough guys, like a guy like Austin Watson, like what's he like? These kids, the way they communicate, they text, they're always on their phones and whatever. Like I like some of the players on like Arizona, for example, they would say like Rick Tocchet would text them late at night. Hey, did you see this play? Did you watch this game? Like, do you do that? Like, will you interact with your players? Like, text them away from the rink, talk hockey? Like, is there a fine line? Can you be their buddy?
Yeah.
Or are you not allowed to be? Like,
I do for sure. Not so much about hockey. I do when a guy, if I feel the guy is mentally getting away or really down on himself, or I feel that, you know, by me texting or calling him, I could get him to feel better, or, you know, it's going to help him, then I'll do that situation. You know, I'm an emotional guy. Like after games, it's easy to rip on your guys and what have you. Sometimes, you know, after a game, you know, and you're sitting there and you text a guy and you just want to text a guy, hey man, it was a hell of a game. You know what? Keep bringing that. Everything's fine. Like, you know, a lot of times I think coaching, people always want to tell you when they want something fixed. I think it's good sometimes just to reach out and tell people when they're doing it right.
Damn
That's
right.
good.
No, 100%.
I like that. I like that.
DJ, even you fucking spank me on my ass when I get off a shift because I got the fucking puck out of the zone, which I should do. But if you give me a little pat on the back, I'm like, oh, thank you. Oh, I'm going to go do it again. Like, no, that helps. Let me ask you this, though, DJ, real quick. What if what if a young kid has a weird relationship with somebody and you're like, you kind of know what's going on. The guys are talking about it a little bit. Like, what if something like intimate, internal, like that happens? How do you get involved? What do you do? Because it's got to happen once in a while.
Well, you know, it hasn't happened for me, but I know what you know, it could happen in many different scenarios. In that situation, I think you got to be, you know, you got to be open with your general manager, your assistant general manager, whoever it is, and try and get the best advice, because there's a lot of touchy situations. I mean, at the end of the day, they're hockey players. You know, we don't control what they do in their personal life. You know, but if it's affecting the team, ultimately, you have to get involved, because my job as a coach is to get the team to play the best. So if it's something that's affecting our team, then it needs to be either rectified or talked about. You know, if it's not affecting the team, then it's none of my business, and move on, you know, like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Write that down, Andy, real quick.
Write that down. Hey,
seen that.
You mentioned like the parents, like in junior, like you probably don't miss that, do you? Like parents calling you after games and like dealing with that.
Jesus.
Like
no, I don't miss that at all.
Is there anything close to that in the NHL though? Like, I know a parent like wouldn't call you. I'm sure they call a GM though, or an agent. Like they're calling their agent left and right, and the agents are calling the GMs all the time.
For sure they do. I mean, you know, usually they're probably the same people that, you know, that did it all the way up. And at the end of the day, we all know this. Coaches are trying to win the game. So, I mean, I'm not always right, but chances are, if I didn't have the kid on in the last minute or he's not on the power play, it's me and the other coaches or whoever. We're trying to win. Like, no one's trying to screw anyone. I think you figure that over the years that, you know, you're doing everything in your power to win. So sometimes, you know, people, especially parents, see it another way. And ultimately what I see is it always ends up hurting the kid, because, you know, if the kid truly feels it, he'll come and talk to you himself. You know, when it's parent driven, I just find there's so much pressure putting on the kid. He may not even feel that way. And his parents or his dad or mom might be telling him, you should be getting this, you should be getting this.
God.
And every minute you spend wasting energy on that is time that you can't get better. And it's hard to push forward. That's why it doesn't happen very often that I can remember in junior, parents that got involved, you know, to an nth degree, that the kid ever made it past junior, because usually it probably meant the kid, A, wasn't good enough, or B, it was the parent that was more driven than the child. And at the end of the day, we know that the NHL is the hardest, you know, for hockey, the hardest league in the world to make. And if you're not a 1,000,000% all in, you're not going to play.
Well, or he's a pussy, or his billet family's fucked up. So when you're playing in, were you coaching?
Yeah, there's that.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, what if they? I went through a couple weird things. No, well, just one weird thing. But do you notice that in junior? So like we're like, oh, this is the Bill family, and then you kind of look and you're like, yeah, they're kind of fucked up a little bit. Like, what do we do about this? Do we play it? Like, what do you like? Right? I mean, fuck. Because if they pay you,
if they're affecting the team again, we'd take them out of that house because, the same thing. There's some of the billets are at home coaching the kid, and that doesn't happen a lot. Like you said, in weird situations, that a kid, will be getting coached from his billet parents and saying, "Hey, you're not playing enough. You're whatever." That is. I mean, that's cancer in itself. That's something that has to be stopped immediately.
I got to know about Matt Cooke. Like, you played with Matt Cooke. Like, was he who he was in the NHL back in junior? Did he evolve into that guy? Like, were you surprised to see him kind of get caught up in some of the stuff? Like, I don't know if you guys are really tight or not. Like, what was he like in junior?
You know what? I got respect for him, man. He was a 10th round pick to the Windsor Spitfires. He came in and he ran everyone out of the building. And he can't fight, and yet he stood up when he had to and took his lickings. And then, you know what the most impressive one is? He went undrafted, his rookie year, and then we ended up playing Plymouth Whalers in the then junior wings in the first round. And we went to 7 games. He hit Brian Berard about 700 times. And, so, he didn't get drafted. So Toronto invited him to training camp the following year, and I was traded to Toronto, so I went there. He was there. He ran everyone out of the building in training camp. Like Domi came over and grabbed him and said, "Kid, hit one more guy, you're dead." And he didn't stop. He was hitting Dougie Gilmore, and Toronto signed him, but something happened. They didn't get it in time, or what happened, and so he became a free agent again. He went back. Vancouver drafted him. And you know what? I'm not surprised. I just think, the game tightens up. Some of those hits that used to be, 4 minutes back in the day are now 15-game suspension.
Exactly.
So he played on the edge wire to wire. He's an incredibly explosive skater and hitter that he's one of those, he's not that big frame. Like, he's probably only 190 pounds. And, when he hits you, like, for whatever reason, he just, it sends guys. And, he can skate. He gets there with velocity. And you know what? I got to give him credit for being a 10th round pick, being undrafted. He made a heck of a career for himself.
Yeah, well, he doesn't come on our podcast. And Stevie Webb, no. I'm not that serious because he's kind of being a wimpy about it. And we're like, come on, we've all had bad hits. But like a Steve Webb, did you play with Stevie Webb back in the day? DJ?
No, I didn't play with Webb. He was right before me. I remember him exactly. He got drafted by Windsor in the second round. I know exactly who he is.
At least he hit and he got his ass kicked by Razor and stuff. Like Cookie didn't fight that much. I know Evander Kane buckled him a couple times, but that's those kind of guys that kind of do piss me off a little bit, and that's why we went him on the podcast. Because he'd fucking rock guys, man. But at least Cookie, or at least Webby would fight the dudes. But he'd kind of be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. What happened? I didn't do anything." I don't know. It drives me fucking nuts. But it's all good, man. All good.
Well, I know what you're saying.
I
know what you're saying. Because, you're drilling guys, and you want them to own up to the big dog. And, he fights a middleweight, and it's like he's getting away with it. The guy he herd's out for 3 weeks, and he got to fight a flyweight, where...
Who's just there.
If I do that, it's Probert coming to get me.
And you're going toe-to-toe.